Welcome to the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Doby. Join Jason as he explores the many ways to unlock personal growth, mindfulness, and spiritual transformation. So now, please welcome the host of Transformative Pathways, Jason Doby.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jason Doby, founder of Transformative Pathways Life Coaching. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our topic for today's episode is Eating with Intuition, Reclaiming Trust in Your Body's Wisdom, with our guest, Rhea Jassal, who is joining us today from Mumbai, India. Rhea is an empowerment coach dedicated to helping women feel truly liberated in their bodies and around food, so they can step into their most confident and authentic selves. After spending over 12 years struggling with her own relationship with food and her body, Rhea began a powerful healing journey, one that led her to uncover the deep-rooting limiting beliefs that were keeping her stuck. Through intuitive bodywork, mindset shifts, and spiritual reconnection, she found true freedom in how she eats, how she moves, and how she feels. Now she guides other women to do the same, supporting them in unlearning the rules, tuning into their body's wisdom, and rewriting their story from a place of self-trust and liberation. Rhea, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jason. It's so nice to be here, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Amazing. All right, so to start things off, I'd love to hear a little bit about your personal journey with food and how you became an empowerment coach.
I have been struggling with body dysmorphia and disordered eating for over a decade, and I never realized that it was a problem until I started doing a lot of self work. And so, just to take you back a bit, I started when I was around, I think I would like to say around 11, 12. And yeah, I would just restrict my eating. I would say that I was very insecure about the way I looked, and I was always striving for perfection. And there were also um, comments being made about my weight when I was younger, um, through friends of family and, distant family and stuff. And I had a lot of perfectionist tendencies where I was always striving for perfection because I thought that that would allow me to be loved. So I continued living life like that in this sort of turmoil where I always thought that eating was hard. I had to move in order to look a certain way. Otherwise, I won't really be accepted within society and the world. So yeah, I would just work out crazy hours at the gym, eat very little food. And from the outside, everyone thought I was super healthy because I looked a certain way. And then it came time where there was a breaking point where I would binge, and then I would gain all the weight again and then go back to yo-yo dieting where I would lose the weight, then gain the weight. I would do this for years. And um, I only started this breakthrough sort of came in my life when I moved countries with my husband. We moved to London, and I had mini awakenings, I think. So I think um, what that allowed me, so I started what led to me actually wanting to realize that there's something that I wanted to change was that I started feeling anxious. I was feeling hollow with my life, and I always felt like I wanted to live this life of peace and flow and ease and just feel comfortable in my skin, but I wasn't allowing myself to do that. So I made a promise to myself that I was gonna change whatever and transform myself in my mindset. So I started working with an empowerment coach, and I started learning, reading a lot of books and learning about my mindset, and that also led to me healing my journey with my food. So that inculcated me learning about what were my blockages related to food and the way I looked and why I was so obsessed for wanting to look a certain way. And through my healing journey, I realized that it would be so great to bring this sort of to people. Because I always loved creating an impact, but I was always stuck in the corporate world of a 9 to 5 job. And I was like, there's no way I could create an impact. There's no way I can do that. And when I started working on myself, I was like, I was so motivated to bring this learning to people and like this sort of this medicine. So, and adding to the fact that I worked with several coaches and they're just the way they were creating an impact sort of inspired me. So, my learnings, including, I mean, and adding all the work that I did with my coaches, sort of inspired me to become an empowerment coach.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. You just reminded me
Thank
of
you.
something. I know when I was in my 20s and I was working in a kitchen, I used to never eat breakfast. I would just have coffee and cigarettes for breakfast, and then I would drink liters
Mhm.
of coffee all day at work. And then I would finish work, and I would normally drown myself in alcohol and finish the night with 10 cheeseburgers from McDonald's. And I lived that way for years and years and years. And I was a chef cooking like fancy food for people, and people think like, oh, chefs must eat so good, but the reality is mostly they don't, because they're just eating, if we were eating good, it was chicken fingers and french fries, but we wouldn't want to take the time to make anything for us. But I remember myself, and like you were talking about your healing journey, when I was going through my own sort of healing journey, I remember when the shift sort of happened for me, when I intuitively just started wanting to eat healthier. And I don't know what that was. And I just thought about that now, but something inside me just kind of said like, I just wanted to start eating healthier, and I was turned off with fast food and I was turned off with junk food. And that was just a few years ago, but that was a pretty incredible shift. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Um,
no, you go ahead.
yes, I just feel like that shift is it happens and it's such a switch moment, which is great. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I'll get into some questions here. What do you believe is the root of our struggles with food and body image today?
So I feel like a major aspect of it is our conditioning, what we're made to believe. So one way we're made to believe that we're as a society we've glorified a certain image, and we're made to believe that is the only way you can be confident. And we're also made to believe that in order to achieve that body, you need to diet, you need to go on, you need to have a calorie deficit. So what that does is it creates it's because these are so connected, it creates such a toxic relationship with our food and our bodies because we've sort of glorified this within our societies. Whatever we see on social media, on a news or in magazines, it's all this image. And the moment there's like a weight, like you lose weight, and I get that so often, like, oh, you look so good, you've lost weight. So that sort of makes you feel like I feel confident because someone told me that. And well, the thing about food is, I think as a society, um, we're we've sort of villainized it, and we put them into labels of good and bad. And what that does is it creates so much restriction and fear around food. So when it's so controlled, we don't really allow for any intuition or our body wisdom to play a part because we want everything to be so controlled. Because if we do that, then we can get a certain body, and that leads to success and confidence. So I think that's one of the major reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine it's a lot different for women than it would be for men. I'm sure there's a lot more pressure on women with all the conditioning and our societal, I don't know the way to say it, but the way that, what society says is the perfect body or what we're supposed to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for women, I feel like the struggle gets really gets really intense because I feel like women are sort of put on this like beauty pedestal almost that if you don't look a certain way, you almost won't be um considered either beautiful or you won't be taken seriously, you won't feel confident. Um, so I feel like that for women, it's so important to feel all these things, um, especially in today's world.
Right.
So, and adding to the whole like we've glorified this, and um when you look at like movies and stuff, we see these actors or influencers, and it adds an equal amount of pressure,
Right.
I think, when it comes to women. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I know what you're saying. Like for women, I guess it's hard for them to feel good about themselves unless they look a certain way that they think they're supposed to look.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm. Absolutely.
got to be difficult. And,
Absolutely.
when you brought up dieting before, and isn't it funny that in our society that when we're eating healthy, we say that we're dieting?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought this up because I saw this somewhere. That we have reached a stage in our world where we feel like eating natural, like eating good food, is considered dieting, which
Hmm.
I find so funny because we are training ourselves to believe that as humans, we only crave unhealthy food and food that isn't. So we're literally conditioning ourselves to believe that we will only crave unhealthy food. And when we put that in our mind, it creates such a poor relationship with food because we're not normalizing all the kinds of food, but we're also making us believe that we cannot be trusted with our own food and hunger. So we need to follow a diet. And then that's a whole other extreme. And that's like a whole added layer of a whole toxic relationship with food because then we're saying that you're only allowed to eat X amount of calories, you're only allowed to eat this much. So you feel so overwhelmed.
Yeah, and it's amazing because eating healthy or dieting is not the normal. I can remember
Mhm.
a time when I was working in the kitchen and I was packing my lunch every day because this is when I decided I was going to start eating healthy. So every day I would bring some yogurt, granola, and some fresh berries and bananas and some dried fruit. And I had my yogurt and granola bowl every day. And I can remember people actually making fun of me for eating that every day. And isn't that funny? People were making fun of me because I was eating healthy or I was eating
Yeah.
fruit and granola.
So I used to be called, so I relate to this so much because I used to be, they were like, oh, Ria would never eat fried food. Ria would never eat anything but a salad. Uh, Ria won't eat this. And I was sort of alienated for wanting to eat a certain way. Um, but even though I did at that time eat the healthy food for the wrong reasons, because the why was not I'm taking care of my body. The why was I want to look a certain way. And that's a whole nother discussion as to why your why is so important. But now when I eat healthy food, it's the why is, you know, to take care of myself. But again, like I don't eat fried food or I don't eat extremely processed food because it just doesn't work for my body. And that's why I'm choosing to not eat it. That doesn't mean that I won't have it here and there, but I genuinely feel my best when I'm eating foods that are nutritious. And that's why I keep on asking people, like, what is your why behind choosing what you're eating? Because deep down, your body will give you signals.
Yeah, like I used to order McDonald's every night on my Friday night. So I quit drinking and stuff, and that was like my thing that I did on my Friday night. I would order like McDonald's, and now we have skip the dishes, so it brings you right to your house, which is even easier. You just like
Hmm.
click a button and it's there in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I would notice that, and I went through a phase where I ate a lot of candy too, and that was like my thing. I would eat candy on my Friday night, and then the next day I would have a hangover, and I would have no energy, and it took me a while to kind of put those two together. That you know I was feeling that way because of the food, but I think why do a lot of people eat McDonald's and stuff like that if they know that they're going to feel like crap afterwards? And I think it's because of the that instant dopamine hit or whatever when you're eating the burger, and they know they're going to feel like crap after, but they don't care because they're feeling that rush of eating it right away. And like what you said about fried foods too, I seem like I go through phases. Like I just at Christmas time I went through a phase where I let myself go a little bit, and I couldn't stop eating, and I gained like 30 pounds in a month. And then after Christmas, I said, okay. And then something in my body told me I needed to stop. So I started like, is it called intermittent fasting? I don't know what it's called, where I would fast for
Yeah.
like
Intermittent fasting. Hmm.
16 to 18 hours a day. And I don't know why. I just did it. I guess I was intuitively listening to my body or something. It wasn't like I told myself I had to do it. I just didn't feel like eating. So I just listened and did it. And I lost on average about 2 pounds a day. Like, mind you, for me, it's really easy for me to gain a lot of weight and lose a lot of weight.
Hmm.
Some women I
Hmm.
work with hate me for that because like I can lose it so fast. But
Hmm.
I was losing 2 pounds a day, and I was doing really good. And then I did that for a couple months, and then we're nearing the end of winter time here in Canada, and I find in the winter time is when I really crave like the fried food and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I've been doing pretty good lately, but every now and then I get a craving for fried food or heavy food or bread and stuff like that. And my question, I guess, would be, how do you tell the difference between, I guess, your intuitive inner knowing? Because I have times when my body tells me it wants to eat avocados or it wants to eat something. Like I've heard people say like just listen to your body, it knows what you need. But how do you
Hmm.
tell the difference between that and sort of like your ego or the craving part in your head that's telling you to like go get that burger or go get that deep fried thing? Like, how do you decipher the difference between those two, I guess?
So I like to basically say that you should normalize your cravings.
Hmm.
When you normalize your cravings, what you do is it loses the power that you have when you tell yourself that I can eat that fried chicken anytime. It's not going anywhere. You sort of normalize it, and no one's telling you not to eat the fried chicken. I think we as humans go into a spiral of overeating. Because sometimes we think that, oh, I'm doing something wrong by eating this fried chicken. So, I mean, because it's not good, so I'm going to overeat and not be good the next day. But when we eat as per our hunger, we normalize it. Like fried chicken is just fried chicken, and we normalize it. And then we just see how and eat as per our hunger cues, which is you ask yourself when you're eating the fried chicken, okay, how do I feel? Okay, am I craving this more? Like, oh no, okay, like I guess I'm done eating right now. And I feel like that goes with just being very intuitive and very mindful when you're eating. And I feel like we're so quick with our meals that we don't even have really any time to process what we're eating. So, what that does is when you sort of normalize it, your cravings sort of lose their hold on itself. And when you do eat, if you do see yourself leaning in for that fried chicken again, I think the real question to ask yourself is, am I just doing this because like I feel like I'm doing it out of a rebellion, or if I'm doing something bad, or do I really crave it? Does my body really want it? Um, and is it giving me comfort and joy? Because if you're going to feel like not so good after the meal, that means that A, you've either overeaten, or B, like it just wasn't aligned for your body.
Right.
So I generally, when I do end up eating a burger or yeah, I think for me my craving is usually a burger. I usually eat very mindfully because I want to get into the comfort and the joy of it rather than like fall into the guilt, and that really allows me to remove the whole guilt with the craving, if that
Right.
answers your question.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to say, so it's okay to eat that burger or the fried chicken, but you don't have to feel guilty about it. You can still
Yeah.
enjoy it. It's
Hmm.
amazing. It's amazing how our minds will, make us feel always telling us we're doing something wrong or we're doing something bad, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. And I thought of something. I've heard this a long time ago. I don't know if I'm going to say it properly, but I heard something that when you're eating something, whether it's a healthy thing or an unhealthy thing, your mental state has a lot to do with how your body processes the nutrients. So I don't
Mhm.
practice it all the time because I forget, but like, if I'm eating something and I'm thinking that this is really good for me and this is really healthy for me, then I'm going to get more out of it. And I think the same thing probably happens if I'm eating something and I'm thinking this is really bad for me, then my body's going to process it differently. Do you know anything about that? Have you heard of that before?
So I have heard of that, but I've also practiced it. I've lived it. So with me, I find that I had a different experience where I would eat salads and I would be like, okay, this is gonna keep me healthy, this is gonna keep me fit, but I would feel really bloated after eating a salad. So I would not feel really well. And then I would eat a burger and I would like be like, oh my God, this is so bad for me. This is so bad for me. And I was putting so much negative energy into my body. And I feel like I was never able to digest my food when it came to healthy or let's say junk, even though I don't really use those labels, but let's say for it, if we're saying
Mhm.
that. Um, because I was always in a state of paranoia. As to now, when food is normalized, that, even if I do have, I focus on the joy that I'm getting with the food,
Mhm.
and I'm thankful that it is present. So I feel that my body responds to that better. So I'm feeling better and I'm feeling more energized, even if I do have a meal that might not be as nutritious.
Right. So that would almost be like eating more mindfully. I think I experienced that uh, the last couple of days when I was eating my breakfast. My wife bought this really nice bread from a local bakery, and we just have like sourdough toast with avocado and ham and cheese and a hard boiled egg. But when I was eating it, I was like, I was just tasting every element of it and just really, really enjoying it. Like, wow, this is so good. And I was like, wow, I'm being really mindful as I'm eating, because normally I'm not that mindful when I'm eating. I'm
Yeah.
just quickly trying to eat it and then run off and do the next thing. So I think that that really makes a difference as well.
Yeah, I feel like using your senses when you're eating is so important. And one of the things that I teach is when you're eating, you should make it a ritual. You should really enjoy and savor every bite because that's the only way you'll really be able to tell how your body is reacting to the food. Otherwise, you'll never know. And you'll never be able to really understand when you're hungry or when you're full. So I feel like just like even removing half an hour of your day, and I mean, I know when I was in my 9 to 5 job, I would be eating something as nutritious as like a Buddha bowl or anything, but I was so consumed with my work that I would feel sick after my meal because I never really was mindful with it.
Hmm.
So the intention with which you eat is so important to how your body receives it.
True. Yeah. I remember a while ago in my early chefing days, I used to have so much anxiety in the morning that I couldn't even eat breakfast, because if I did, I would just throw up. So I never even ate anything, and I would throw up
Mm-hmm.
anyway from my anxiety, without eating. Um, had another question there, but I lost it. And talking about intuition, like what does it truly mean to listen to your body, and how do we begin to sort of trust that?
So, what I teach people is basically I tell people not to judge their hunger. So, what it means to really listen to your body is when you feel hungry. So, I mean that trusting your body also comes with a whole other process of scrapping diets from yours, like forgetting all the rules that you have learned and actually just listening to your hunger. And you feel like when you feel like the thoughts of food appearing in your mind, you feel your stomach being a little empty, that's a good time for you to eat, right? Rather than judging your hunger and be like, oh no, my diet says that I can't eat right now. And even if that means that, so I believe that your hunger fluctuates, especially for women. It fluctuates on a day-to-day basis based on our hormones. So we can't judge our hunger. So if your body's asking you for food, eat it. But also, it's important if you have tendency to emotional eat, it's also important to ask yourself that am I eating because I'm hungry or do I feel an emotion coming up and I'm eating
Mhm.
because of that? And then while you're eating, there's a very thin line because we're not mindful when we're eating, where you could tend to overeat. So when you're eating, when you're in your mindfulness of it, just it's so important to just ask yourself, how am I feeling? Is my body satisfied? Do I feel like I could use more food? Am I craving more food? Because usually we're like, I just need to finish my plate. I
Mhm.
just need to finish my plate, and that means I'm done with my meal. And that's really not the case. It's so much more. And food is nourishment, but we don't treat it like that. We treat it like it's an activity, and but it really just fuels our body. And it's about understanding um, your hunger, and if you're craving something, um, I think it's important to ask yourself, am I craving it to suit my emotion, or am I really craving it because today I could really use a good burger. Like my body is craving a good pizza. Well, I'm sure your body the next day after you've had like a really heavy dinner, the next day, or you've had a heavy lunch, you won't probably won't be so hungry at dinner because you've eaten a heavy lunch. And it's about honoring that, oh, okay, I could probably have like a lighter dinner because my body's just not feeling it today.
Mhm. Yeah, and
So
that's
that's
what
exactly what I mean.
thank you. And that's what I was going to say, but I forgot, was talking about meal sizes. And it's so funny because when I go through those phases where I do the intermittent fasting and stuff, I just don't feel like eating. And I won't eat my
Mhm.
first meal of the day till 2 o'clock. And I'll have a little light lunch at 2 o'clock, and then I'll have some dinner at like 6 o'clock. And then I won't eat again till the next afternoon. But it's so funny because we think, oh, it's lunchtime, I have to go eat. I got to go out for lunch and eat a big plate of this. Oh, it's dinner time, we have to eat. But we just eat because we think we have to eat at these times. And like you said, it becomes like an activity that we have to do. And we're just checking the boxes and getting that done. And the other thing was meal sizes. Because when I was eating less, I wasn't hungry. I was eating just as much as I needed. But I think now
Mhm.
I'm, trapped in that breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing again. Like, oh, it's lunchtime. I have to eat just to tick that box. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on meal sizes. And I know, like, I've heard that some, like, I don't know if this is true or not. I could be saying this wrong, but some Buddhist monks and stuff like that, they only eat like one meal a day at like 12 o'clock or something like that, or they don't
Mhm.
eat past a certain time. And
Mhm. Mhm.
and I'm just wondering uh, what your opinion is, or your take is on meal size. I know you were saying just to kind of eat what you feel your body needs. But I think, like, living in North America, the normalized thing is we have to eat so much and supersize everything, and get the large pop and the large fries and the large steak and just more, 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 more,
Mhm.
more. But yeah, I'm just curious what your take is on that, and how can people kind of look at how much food they're eating and maybe make adjustments to having smaller portions.
So, um, coming back to, I feel like when we make food an activity, it almost loses its joy. And when you're eating food, if like at a social gathering or for a family event, that's great. I mean, like you want to enjoy those moments. But I don't think you should be having one meal a day for sure. I feel like I get we have like lunch, dinner, and breakfast, and that's something that I follow, and it's great. Um, but I think what the adjustments come is when your mealtime approaches, like how hungry am I today? How hungry am I feeling at breakfast today? And then taking it there. Or I think that when the moment you skip lunch, you'll end up being super hungry for dinner. So I
Mhm.
don't think that's the way to go at it as go for it either. I think it's like, okay, I'm not feeling so heavy for lunch. I might as well just go off for something light. Or you might have some days where you're super hungry and you want to eat more. The moment you go for um I want the supersized meal. My question is, are you eating the supersized meal because you're hungry, or is it coming from a place of lack? Do you think that, or do you think that you need to eat this meal or the supersized meal because, oh, it's a better deal, or I have to finish my plate. Why is there a need to finish your plate? It's always important to ask yourself, why do I feel like getting the supersized meal? Do I feel like this is my only chance to eat it? If it's a better deal, but what is it doing to your body? So always asking those questions, what I believe is it addresses root problems, and that sort of creates mindset shifts.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it just comes back to, what you were saying before. Are you eating because you're hungry, or you're eating to kind of fill a void inside you, or
hmm
make
hmm
yourself feel good for a few minutes?
And the thing with food is it's a bit tricky, right? Because food is shared in love, joy, celebration, sadness. So um it's creating that distinction. It's like I'm not gonna not enjoy a food in social settings, but I'm also not gonna numb myself with food when I'm feeling sad or if I feel an emotion bubbling up.
Hmm.
So it's always being mindful of that difference.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to also look at, like, what is the reason that we're eating the food for? Why do we need to eat
hmm
food in the first place, right? We need to eat it for energy, to get that life force energy that comes from the sun or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I tell my kids too. Like, if they're like something that comes in a box, I say that's not food. There's no energy in that. I think
hmm
half the food that we're eating nowadays has no energy in it.
Yeah.
And we're eating it, and we're actually spending more energy to process that food and get all the toxins out of our body, and we're not
hmm
even getting anything out of it. So it's actually taking more away from us than it's bringing in, right?
Absolutely. I feel like in today's world, eating healthy as we put it now is a privilege because it's so hard, right? To access that. Um, so I think it's also acknowledging and giving yourself grace that and I feel like because when you're going through toxic relationships with your food and your body, it's hard, but like I feel like you should always know that you're always trying your best to give your body the best, and you should allow yourself grace and to know that you're doing whatever you can to give your body the best because the ultimate goal should always be that you should feel good in your body, whether it's nourishment, comfort, and joy. I feel like it should be a combination of all three.
Right. I just thought of this. I'm going to bring it up. It might be kind of weird, but I recently read the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda
Mm-hmm.
about a year ago, and I'm also a self realization fellowship student, so I've been studying the teachings for almost a year now. But in that book, there is, I think, one person for sure. I forget her name, but this person hasn't eaten any food in, I don't know how long, 20, 30 years or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy to think. But his whole thing is his saying that, we get food for energy, but there's a way to sustain your body without food. And they even go as far as saying
Mhm.
like without food and without water and even without the breath, if you can learn that, which is crazy. So that's one of my goals, to get to that point. Maybe not in this lifetime though, maybe in the next one. But
Wow, yeah, that.
I think that's pretty interesting. And I think that's a rare case. I don't think there's many people out there that can live like that.
Mm.
They just learn how to, harness or sustain their life force energy through other ways, which is pretty amazing. But that's a little woo woo off topic. But anyways, I just thought of that, so I wanted to bring it up. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was you mentioned like eating with family, and again, I don't know exactly. I don't know all the facts on this, but I remember hearing somewhere about the benefits of eating with your family or eating in a group of people. Um, the positive benefits it can have for you versus eating alone. And I wish I had the information or the study to that. And I think I wanted to ask if you know anything about that. And the other thing with that is a lot of people nowadays are eating because everyone's so busy. They're just eating when they can. A lot of families aren't eating
Mhm.
together, or the kids are eating in front of the TV or in front of the iPad. And so that's one thing in my house. We always try to all sit down together, which is hard because my kids are young and they just take a bite and get up and run around
Mhm.
and doing things and whatever. But
Mhm.
do you know anything about that, about the benefits of eating in a group of people, like the positive benefits about that? Have you ever heard about that before?
So I've never heard of um how it the I've never read or heard about the benefits of eating in a group setting, but I do know that people get thrown off by eating in a public setting or going to a restaurant because they feel like they lose. So when you've been dieting for so long, you feel like you've lost control. You
Hmm.
lose control over that, so they prefer eating alone and having controlled meals. So they would avoid social settings. And I feel like when you really share a meal, you make it so joyous, you make it a ritual. And there's so much comfort and joy in that. So it's sad to see how like I used to do that. I used to avoid social settings because I was like, I can't control the food there. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I don't know what amount of calories are going to be in the food over there. So I used to miss out on all the joy. But and I would just coop myself in a corner and eat my food alone. And I feel like that's no way to nourish your body or live life. That might not be super related to what what you were asking me, but it's just a little bit of an experience and a little perspective.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. I wish I knew the facts on that, but it just popped in my head now. I heard it on a podcast, so I don't know exactly what the benefits were, but I remember they were talking about the benefits of eating together as a family, and there was some major health benefits to it as well. So I need to look that up because I don't remember what that was, but super
Yeah,
super.
I feel like I'm gonna do some research on this as well. It's so
Yeah.
interesting now that you said it.
Um, yeah, I won't look it up right now. I'll wait till we're done here. I guess my next question is, how would you say diet culture has contributed to our disconnection from our body's intuition?
So, I feel like what diet culture does is they make us super dependent on it. And I'm not saying that no one should go on a diet. I feel like if there's a health problem that needs to be addressed, you must absolutely go on a diet and follow a routine to sort of get your health back into check. I feel like what diet does is it's like for a lot of us, we go on diets to achieve a certain body type or to look a certain way. And what diets do is like they make us believe that we don't have agency to make our own decisions and our bodies aren't capable enough. So in our mind, we're training ourselves to believe that we need to follow a diet and it's a prescribed way of living life. And you eat X amount of calories and X amount of macros, and that's how you live life. But my perspective and what that does is when there's any factor that's thrown off or if there's a craving that kicks in, you start questioning your body and you're like, no, like why is this thing disrupting my diet? But we're humans, we're gonna want to go out, we're gonna want to eat food that gives us comfort and joy. So what it does is it strips away the whole idea of comfort and joy from food and makes you believe that you're supposed to live life in this controlled manner. And that's the only way to sort of look a certain way. And what that does is it trains your mind into thinking that you can only restrict food to to be healthy and happy or achieve a certain weight. Um, I to me, what I started believing is that it's not a natural way of eating. I don't believe that we were put on this life and this earth to eat in this controlled manner that we have believed ourselves, what we've conditioned to believe. And um, what I do think has happened is that as life has progressed, we've sort of lost touch with our hunger and our body cues because we're so consumed. So I that's what I think diets do. And they sort of just completely strip you of control of your own well-being. When all bodies are different, I don't think one standardized approach is going to work for everyone. And as humans, I think we know our bodies the best. We know what works for us. Like a salad may not work for my body, but I know it works for so many other people. It does wonders for them. They feel so energetic, but to me, I just feel sick when I have it. But I know 100 other diets are going to prescribe a salad in every meal of mine.
Right. So
So yeah.
what would you say, or what would your advice be to someone who wants to diet or lose weight rather than like going on a certain diet? Like what would you say to someone, or like, the people that you work with, what sort of guidance do you give them?
If they wanted to go on a diet,
Yes, yeah. Rather than going on
I
just like a diet, like what would your recommendation be, like to do something that's right for them?
I would ask them to completely let go of the idea of dieting. I just don't believe in that. I would ask them to look inwards and I would ask them to pinpoint, obviously, when I work with my clients, we pinpoint the fear of the food fears that they have and what are their fears attached to food and their body dysmorphia and how they feel when they're consuming certain food, why they feel addicted to some kind of food. And what that does is you want to get to a stage where you're becoming a natural eater. You want to get to a state where you're getting to your natural way of eating. Um, and when you go on a binge and restrict cycle, what that does is it just creates a lot of inflammation in your body. So it's about how to sort of um, combat that by releasing your fears and actually looking into patterns that you're sort of following that lead to this toxic cycle with food. Because
Right.
only when you are able to address that can you make really mindful and empowering decisions for your body.
Right. So before saying this is what you need to eat, you're going to look at what are your limiting beliefs, what are your fears, and kind of
Hmm.
doing a little bit of inner work around
Hmm.
first. Yeah, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
and ideally, I would like my clients to have agency over making empowered decisions with food, being like, I want them to believe that they will always make the best decision when it comes to their food and their bodies. I don't want them to feel not empowered with that.
Right. And then what happens when, say, your hypothetical client like has a realization, oh, okay, I'm eating this because of this and because of this, or because this happened to me, so I'm eating this. So, what does that process look for people as they're going through that, and they're realizing why they're eating what they're eating? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think what happens is um I can give you my example. Like I feel like I used to get super stressed and I used to have a lot of chocolates. Chocolates were my thing, right? So the moment I realized that okay, I was inching in for a chocolate whenever I was stressed while I was healing, it's not like, okay, one day it just completely stopped. It was a practice.
Right.
Um, I would be like, sometimes I wouldn't notice it, and some days I would. And I'd be like, am I going for that chocolate because I am upset or because I genuinely just crave a chocolate and I want to eat a chocolate? So it's a practice. It's a journey that requires a lot of patience. So it's not like you one day you know it and that's it, you're never going to do it. Some days you will go in for that chocolate and you have to give yourself a lot of grace to be like, it is
Mhm.
fine. I'm not bad. I'm just human. I am in the, I'm not in the pursuit of perfection here. I'm practicing and I'm experimenting with my body and I'm learning a whole, it's like deconditioning yourself and completely rewiring your brain into stopping thinking in labels of good and bad and just normalizing food.
Mhm.
So it takes a lot of practice. And when you practice that, eventually you get to the stage where you're like, when you're even feeling triggered, you don't feel like going in for the chocolate. You might opt for a session of journaling, or you might do some breath work.
Mhm. No, yeah, I totally get it. So it's very similar to like, reframing your limiting beliefs or reframing the way you talk to
Hmm.
yourself. First, you have to notice it and be aware of it, and
Yeah,
then slowly start to practice it and
yeah.
make the shift. Very
And
interesting.
I would like to add because the moment you add a diet, like you should eat this, it's like I'm giving you another rule book.
Yeah.
But we're trying to, and that again brings up more restriction patterns because you start thinking it's like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing something with the rules. But we're trying to normalize food and learn how to make empowered decisions for our body. So that's why addressing those limiting beliefs are so important.
I love that. I love limiting beliefs.
Yeah, same.
I had a lot of them. I'm still working through them. But
Likewise.
I'm curious, what's your take on caffeine, like coffee and stuff like that?
So, I mean, to be fair, I was super addicted to coffee.
Hmm.
But I started realizing that I would either drink coffee to kill my appetite, and or B, I was doing it for some sort of energy boost. But as I started doing in the work of just being more embodied with myself, I started realizing that I was actually feeling really wired with
Hmm.
coffee. So I've limited it down to 1 cup a day now, which really helps me. So whenever I do have the coffee, it's in the morning. I do need I also feel that caffeine is like borrowed energy. So you will have that cup of coffee in the evening, and you probably really won't end up sleeping because you have so much energy, but the next day you crash. That's what I have learned about caffeine. So on the days where I do want to inch in for that other cup of coffee, I'm like, do I really need this right now? Like, what will it really do to my body? Is it worth what it's gonna do to me the next day? So I feel like caffeine is like a lot of borrowed energy. Um, but I still do consume it in the morning because I like again, it's like a mini ritual for me. I've
Yeah.
made like a whole little coffee collagen mix that I love. So I like having that. But yeah, I feel like it can lead to for some it can lead to stress and anxiety and
Mhm.
um which is really important to actually be aware of.
Yeah, for me, I was addicted to coffee. Like I said, I used to have coffee for breakfast, a coffee and a cigarette, and
Hmm.
drink coffee all day at work. And then I quit drinking coffee 2 years ago. And
Hmm.
I would have so much anxiety in the morning already, and I wouldn't eat, and I would have a couple coffees, and I would get to work, and I would be so jittery that I couldn't even like
Hmm.
set up my workstation. I'd be dropping
Hmm.
knives on the floor and I'd be so stressed. And it wasn't until I completed a couple tasks that I would actually like calm down. Once I started like crossing things off my list, I would calm down. But I remember one day I just decided I'm going to quit drinking coffee and see what happens. And that was a couple years ago. And I still do like enjoy coffee, like the taste of it. I'll get a decaf latte every now and again. Like I
Hmm.
love lattes, but the caffeine just it doesn't do it for me. And I quit coffee for like a year. And then I think last winter, I had like a few cups here and there because my wife still drinks coffee and she buys this
Mm.
this coffee that's infused with mushrooms, not like magic mushrooms or anything,
Yeah.
but like organic mushrooms. She gets it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know the name of it, but so she still drinks that. And then she was buying a decaf one for me. But last winter, I had a few coffees here and there, and then I noticed that I was like drinking it like crazy again. Like I would catch
Yeah.
myself in like third cup in a row, and I'm like, what am I doing? And it was like a drug for me. So when I quit coffee, I started drinking tea instead, and I started with caffeinated tea, and then I switched to decaf tea,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm just like totally off the caffeine. Like I don't even need it at all, and now I just have like hot water and lemon in the morning, or like a tea, and I don't even need that.
Yeah.
But it took me like 2 years to get there, where I needed that warm cup of something in the morning. Like I used to have my coffee pot set to go off, so when I woke up in the morning, my
Mm-hmm.
coffee was already brewed, and I could pour myself a cup. And I remember like during COVID there, like when we were locked in the house with our 3 kids, we would make 3 pots a day. And that was like the thing that was just keeping us going.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the coffee culture is where you are, but I know here, like in Canada, it's, there's a Tim Hortons on every block or a Starbucks, and people are lined up in their cars to get coffee, and people pay like, some people are paying like $8-10. I had staff that used to come to
Mm-hmm.
work and
Mm-hmm.
they'd have like a triple shot whatever from Starbucks, and it's like you're paying $12 a day for that drink. But then you get into the whole thing on energy drinks too. But I think, it's just another addiction, and people are relying on that for their energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's the coffee culture has boomed here over the past couple of years in Mumbai, especially. There's a lot of artisanal coffee brands and yeah, it's just also coffee culture has boomed because everyone goes and works there. I think post-COVID, that's become the new culture. Um, I think with caffeine, it's always important to understand to set boundaries with it. That's what I learned and what really helped me is setting boundaries and what is your why for having the coffee. Um, because if it's to subside your hunger or it's to let's say just get another boost of energy, why is asking your body as to why it's having that energy crash is so important. So I feel like coffee is very interesting in terms of like it's always it's good to have like boundaries with it and just be aware around it because what I realized is that when I would consume coffee, I just couldn't sleep at night. But it's hard to imagine my life, what it was like, because I used to have 4 cups and still sleep, but I was still so anxious and wired.
Mhm.
And now that I'm not anxious and wired, or rather I know how to regulate my anxiety and feeling jittery. Now my body can't handle coffee. But I still feel energized. I don't feel like I'm lacking anything.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I definitely can't handle it anymore after not having it for so long.
Yeah.
I have a little bit, and I
Yeah.
just, I just don't like that feeling anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
All right, we're getting close to the end of our time here, and I know that you also offer a free guide called Nourishment Without Obsession. Can you tell us a little bit about that
Yes.
and how our listeners can get started with it? And we're also going to include that link in the show notes below for anyone interested in that.
So it is my guide that I released about a month and a half ago. You um go to my Instagram page and also find the link over there. But the whole idea of the guide was to break down some fears that we have about food and the limiting beliefs and how we can nourish our bodies without having those limiting beliefs and what is um, how we perceived health to be and what is diet culture making us believe and how is it leading to a toxic relationship with food and how we can actually reframe those limiting beliefs and feel empowered around food and still nourish our bodies and be healthy. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. And I see like, a lot of what we're saying today all comes back to sort of being mindful and asking yourself why, what is the reason
Hmm.
why I'm doing this? So
Yeah.
that's a common thread there. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, before we wrap things up, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners? Is there anything that we didn't cover today that you'd like to add?
Just that, no, I think we were pretty thorough on this podcast, but as you said, like your why is so important, and don't make food the enemy. It's always good to understand what your body wants and be nice to it and don't judge it. And the moment we start taking care of our body and changing our why as to why we want to be healthy, that perspective shift is so important to create a healthy relationship with food in your body, because food is nourishment. It's so important. So we should start honoring that.
Absolutely. That was beautiful. That was so
Thank you,
great.
Jason.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And my next question is, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
So people can find me on Instagram. So my handle is Rhea Jassal. So that's RheaJassal. And I should be right there. And that's where people can find me. And you can DM me, reach out to me, ask me any sort of questions. I'm always, always listening and answering questions there.
Amazing. That was beautiful, Rhea. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jason. It was lovely.
It was great. And for everyone listening, we'll include Rhea's information in the show notes below. Make sure you check out her free guide and follow her on Instagram. And as always, if you'd like to connect with me, you can follow me on Instagram at transformative_pathways and also on TikTok at Jason_Dobie. You can also find my link tree in the show notes below, where you'll have access to all my social media, my email list, and my private community. And if this episode sparks something in you and you're feeling called to explore your own inner growth on a deeper level, I invite you to check out The Journey Within. It's my 12-week coaching program designed to help you break free from stress, self-doubt, and feeling stuck, so you can live with more confidence, clarity, and purpose. Simply go to jasondobie.com or click the link below for more details. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you could like, subscribe, and follow us on your favorite listening platform. And if you'd like to support the show, we'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a review. It would mean so much to us and also help the show reach more listeners. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to connecting with you again next time.
This has been the Transformative Pathways Podcast with your host, Jason Dobie. Tune in each week for more insights, inspiring stories, and transformative journeys. Until then, keep exploring the path to keep your best self. Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.